Hello, everyone. It's Jamie Greenwood of Jamie Living, and also the founder of this new series, the Feeling Home in Your Body interview series, where I interview women that I think are amazing, who have something to share about their relationship with their bodies and how it's been impacting their life and many other avenues of their existence. This series I came up with it because I really feel like there were conversations that people weren't necessarily having. They were having the I want to lose 5 pounds conversation, or I hate my muffin top conversation, but they weren't really actually digging into how does how we speak to ourselves and feel about ourselves impact our bodies on a daily basis and impact our self-worth on a daily basis. So today I am interviewing Andrea Scher, who Hi. Hi. I know we've only met a few times, but every time I'm always just so enamored with your energy, and I'm thrilled to have you here. For those of you who don't know, Andrea, she is the artist, photographer, mother, creative behind superherolife.com, and she has a number of courses that are all about bringing out your kind of creative superhero and how to get into. Is that right?
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to have to take notes later. What did you say?
Getting in touch with your creative superhero. And, one of the things, just to get started, one of the things that I really loved most about your blog, and actually why I wanted to talk to you about this today, was you have a little blurb on your website that says, "No capes, just courage." And I have sat with that many times around a number of different things. And it made me realize how much courage it takes to feel at home in your body. And I actually just, before we, dive into specific questions, what are your thoughts on that? On the courage to feel at home in your body? Have you experienced that at all? Kind of a need for courage in that way?
Yeah, the word transgressive comes to mind right now. It's almost transgressive to be at home in your body and to take it a step further and express that to your girlfriends or on your blog or to the world. I think it's actually kind of radical to say, I'm actually totally cool with this, and this is why, and this is what I mean by that. Not oh, I'm perfect, but this is where I've grown in this area, and these are the ways that I'm growing myself even more. Because it's obviously it's a work in progress. We're not we're born loving ourselves, and then shit happens,
and then it falls to hell.
And then it falls apart. Yeah, exactly. People say things that are insensitive. They don't even mean them sometimes. And they create these wounds, and then we make up stories about what those people say or what happened. And then they become beliefs about our body. And then they harden into these immovable things that we don't even know are there until we start this inquiry process, right?
Yes. Okay, did you guys all catch that? That was gold and genius right there. That's exactly right. And just like you said, we start out being born loving ourselves. We don't know any different, so why not like the body that we're in? So for you, when did you first kind of have the inkling of I'm not digging this situation? I don't like my body, and it needs to be changed or harnessed or controlled in some way so I know that I'm okay.
Well, so the first memories I have of there's something wrong. I didn't even know there was something wrong until I overheard my gymnastics coach when I was probably 8 years old telling my mom that I needed to lose weight, that I was chunky, that, blah, blah, blah. And he probably thought he was doing me a favor. My mother probably thought she was doing me a favor.
Right.
Oh, we'll get this under control, honey. And it was oh my God, I didn't know there's a problem. And then it became with my mom, because she was sensitive, the narrative became, it's okay, you just have a tendency to gain weight. And that's what I mean to you about these ideas that become hardened over time, and they become this belief oh, I have a tendency to gain weight. I have to be careful. I have to keep this scary thing at bay because I'm one hot fudge sundae away from the tsunami of I don't even know just keep it away. Of like, you know, total lack of control.
Yes.
So I think because I'm wired to be sort of anxious and a perfectionist and a high achiever, I think I went that sort of overachieving direction, even in the realm of like, okay, must keep things looking real good here.
Yes.
Or I won't be loved, essentially. I mean, that's sort of like where the whole trail of thought kind of goes back to, is like, to be loved, you have to be perfect. And this is such a visible part of our lives, our bodies. If you're not perfect there, that's like the interface point with the world.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So that was like high school and college were a lot about that.
Okay. And so what did that look like for you specifically? Did you put yourself on diets? Were you just really regimented with your workouts? Because this is something I see a lot with my clients. It's like they're eating really healthfully, but they're just gripping that food so tight to like make sure that it's really nailed down. And it's, you know, there's this new term, or relatively new term, orthorexia, kind of like the obsession of being healthy. And so I'd love to know how that kind of need to kind of change your body or be different in your body express itself throughout high school and college.
Yeah. Well, I remember my best friend in high school showed me this really cool thing she discovered, which was she pulled me into the bathroom stall and was like, if you eat too much, you just throw up. And it's like it never happened. And I was like, she's a genius. This is amazing. And so I was like, all right.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was laughing. It was sort of like, you know, laughing about it now.
But it is. It's like, because what you should have thought, or maybe not should have, but like what would have been like, maybe, you know, been like, that's kind of gross, dude.
Yeah.
But instead you're like, you're brilliant. This is why we're best friends.
Exactly. Oh my God. So I kind of experimented with that. I was like, this is great. Like, I didn't want to do it all the time, but it was good to have in my back pocket. Like, if I really, you know, blew it, it's like plan B, right?
Totally.
And then I went to college and was really surrounded. I went to college in Santa Barbara, and one of the very first things I noticed was like, oh my God, everyone is tan and blonde and perfect here. Yeah. Everyone's like jogging, and if yoga had been popular then, everyone would have had their yoga mats under their arms. And so I felt a lot of pressure when I got into college, and so I kind of, I sort of went in and out of, you know, eating disordered kind of life until I went to Italy. And then I spent the year in Italy and actually learned how to eat like a human being, because they know how to eat there.
Yes.
And that was really healing. And my roommate, my American roommate at the time, happened to be a really healthy eater, really like eat with gusto kind of person. And so I had a kind of mentor. I had all these Italians who were eating really big, beautiful meals and really revering their food. And then I had this roommate who was also mirroring that. And that was really helpful. I mean, it was a year of someone modeling something totally different that actually healed me. Yeah. It was amazing.
So do you feel, I mean, that's incredible. I mean, I'm going to Italy in a few months and I can't wait. I'm so excited. But do you ever feel when things get stressful, when life gets intense, when things get a little overwhelming or chaotic, do you ever go back to kind of that food body control almost because it's, you know it? Like it's almost like a methodology of knowing that life is going to be okay?
Yeah. In fact, I do. Not so often anymore.
Yeah.
But over the years, definitely. In fact, I remember, I'm going to have a sip of water. I remember having a really emotionally hard conversation at some point in my mid-20s. And I got off the phone and I went to the bathroom and started throwing up. And it was the first time I'd done it in a really long time. But it was this like, I'm trying to remember what I was experiencing before. I think it was shame and like disgust with myself. And it was like this effort to become clean again or something like that.
Yeah.
Some really old wiring showing up again.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because I find that in its own way, it's comforting because you know it, right? Like, this is how I know how to get clean.
Right.
This is how I know how to get rid of this. And I mean, I just had this, it was so crazy. I had this experience a few weeks ago, actually, where I was in Los Angeles, and for me, LA is a place where I go a little nutso. Like, because it's where I grew up, and growing up in LA and not being tan and having this hair, it just doesn't, everyone's very confused. Like, they don't know where you belong. And I didn't know where I belonged. And so I was visiting my family, and I suddenly started getting all those urges of, like, you're not thin enough. You should be working out twice a day. You really don't have dessert tonight. Like, all these things have not entered my brain in years. All of a sudden, we're playing. And what's so great is I think that when you have a bit of healing around it and it happens again, you can step back.
Yeah.
And notice.
Exactly.
And notice, like, oh, that's a knee-jerk reaction. That isn't reality anymore.
Yeah. What's
true here?
Right. Right, exactly. And then you can choose to respond in a different way, not from that old way, that old patterning.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so do you feel like that ever goes away?
Oh, this is such a good question. Because my clients ask me this all the time, will it ever go away? And I don't know. Because it hasn't, I will say, it has not fully disappeared from me. Mm-hmm. But it is so much, I can deal with it now. Like, when it comes up, when I'm like, oh, well, you should be wearing a size pants that are smaller. Like, when that comes up, I don't believe it. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, Jamie, you're being mean again. Yeah. Let's be nice.
Yeah.
Like, it becomes this kind of practice of compassion.
Yeah, exactly. And you sort of cultivate, or you're not sort of, you cultivate another voice that can step in as a compassionate voice. Like, oh, wow, I see what you're saying to yourself. And it is that layer of, like, the observer.
Exactly.
Right?
So, because when I was in, like, the throes of it in high school and college, too, it was like every 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Every 5 minutes, it was, you shouldn't look this way, you shouldn't look that way, you shouldn't eat this, you have to eat that, you need to go for a run. Like, it was... I cannot believe I even graduated college. Like, there was so much chatter around my body. And now, again, like, it's really quiet. Mm-hmm. But then it does come up, and you're like, oh, hello.
Yeah.
I remember you.
Yeah.
But, one of the questions that I ask myself, and I ask the people that I work with when those things come up is, what is the body trying to express? Like, if she could say anything to you right now, what would it be? And I do believe that the body speaks to us in many different ways. And one of them is through sensation. I ask my clients this question too, whenever they have, like, a physical ailment or body pain or, like, a diagnosis, like adrenal fatigue. Like, what is the body possibly attempting to say to you? And have you ever kind of had that questioning for yourself, if you've ever been ill? Or I don't even know your history, if you've ever, like, had any sort of body problems.
Well, one thing that comes to mind was a few years ago, my mom was really, really sick, and it happened kind of suddenly, and went to visit her, and it was like, oh my God, this might be the end. And I remember coming home, and, like, a week later, I was like, what's wrong with my head? And I was feeling like, I think there's, like, I have a bald spot on my head. And I suddenly, like, bald spot. And I'm like, whoa. And I didn't know what was going on. Yeah. I was like, okay, body's trying to tell you something. And I thought, okay, clearly stress, it wasn't that hard to figure out. My mom was really sick. But I thought after a few months, oh, it'll just start growing back. It didn't. So I go to, like, Kaiser, and they're like, well, we can give you steroids, we can do this and that. I was like, well, that doesn't sound so good.
Right.
I'll wait a little longer. And I was at the refrigerator one day pretty soon after that, and this wise voice in me just said, just stop eating sugar. And I thought, oh, okay. And so I did, and my hair started to grow back within, like, 2 weeks. And that was it was a really compelling scenario. I mean, it was like total, like instant feedback loop.
Yes.
And I know that voice, like it's very rare that voice rises up and like literally is like a little megaphone in my head, but it has at a few really important moments in my life, and that was one of them. And so I don't like dieting because it does kind of connect me back to that time when I was worried about what I ate and afraid of food and all of that. Yeah. So I definitely I don't believe in low-fat versions of things, and I don't believe in diets. But what does work for me is the sugar thing. So I quit sugar, and it had all these great benefits, most of which it redirected me and reoriented me toward a bunch of other foods that I wasn't eating.
Yeah.
So without the sugar, there was less processed food. There was less, the ends of my kids' Z-bars when they didn't finish them.
Right.
That kind of thing. So instead it was like, oh, there's this whole world of food you haven't been paying attention to. And so I just feel better. Yeah.
Well, and it's the idea of adding in, right?
Yeah.
You're adding in all of this stuff instead of deciding I'm never eating sugar again.
Right, exactly. And I told myself, like, you are not living your life going to birthday parties and not eating cake. I'm sorry. That's not happening. So if I decide, like the other day, randomly, I mean, it's been like months that I haven't had sugar. And the other day I was like, mint chip ice cream.
Damn.
Mint chip! So good!
Damn.
And it was a hot day and it was totally delicious, total pleasure. The world didn't come to an end and it was great. I'll do it again,
Yeah. And you're hitting upon something that is so important because I've heard this so many times. Like, well, Jamie, if I let myself eat a brownie, what's going to stop me from eating the entire pan? Or if I let myself have ice cream, what's going to stop me from not having ice cream every single day? And I think it's what you just hit on. It's the voice. Do I really want this? Versus am I being driven to it out of compulsion or nervousness or fear?
Right. Are you getting off of that really emotional call with somebody and going straight to the freezer or to the toilet or like whatever?
Whatever because it's all numbing, right? Yeah. Whether you're going straight for a run because you have to like exercise it out, or you're going straight to the toilet, you're going straight to the fridge. It's all not sitting with what's coming up.
Yeah, that is really true. I love what you just said. Like, it's all numbing, and what we really need to find support for, either with friends or whatever, is going into the emotion and feeling what needs to be felt. Yes. And sometimes that's like by yourself that works. I'm actually afraid to do that by myself, so I call a friend, and that's my practice. When it feels too scary to go into it by myself, I call a friend, and I'm like, all right, I need to go there. Go there with me.
That's incredible. That is incredible.
Yeah.
You sounds like you have some amazing friends on your speed dial.
I do. And actually, I mean, I experience the gift of when someone reaches for me in a moment like that. It feels like such an honor and a privilege to be in on someone's process in that really intimate, sacred way. Well, right?
It's so pure, right? Yeah. It's so pure because they are just raw.
Yeah.
And you can hold them there.
Yeah. And it's so intimate. It's just I just feel so connected. And so I remember that in those moments when I'm like, I don't want to bring anyone down. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want them to think I'm a total disaster, like whatever.
Yeah.
I remember that actually, no, it's an honor and a privilege to be with me and whatever I'm going through. That's what friends do.
Exactly. And as you're saying this, I'm thinking about how much we kind of numb and muffle emotions in our being. And how when we do that, it can create such turmoil, even though we don't even recognize it as it's happening. And the expression and the letting it out makes such a huge difference. And I hear so often from clients, like, well, I don't want to be a burden. It's like, you're a human. You need other humans. Like, let's reach out. Like, we can do this. Well, so I'm trying to keep these interviews to like 20 minutes, but I don't want to because I want to talk to you forever. But we can do it longer. But I did have one kind of final question for you, which is around your work. Your work is really about, as I said, kind of bringing that creative superhero out of everyone and really kind of advancing the conversation around expression. Like you have this one course right now, color hunting, right?
Yeah, color collecting.
Color collecting. Okay. And it's all about, kind of like expression as I see it, like expression through color. And I would love to know, how has kind of your creative expression through your work impacted your relationship with your body?
That's a great question. Let me think for a sec here. Well, I think for me, creativity is my access point for healing, for personal growth, for growing myself. So that's just my access point. So if by doing my creative work and like finding my voice and expressing myself and being brave in all the ways that I need to show up and be brave in that realm, I think that just kind of naturally translates to the rest of my life. So it's like I'm growing my courage muscles in this arena so that I can be brave over here in my intimate relationship. Or does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think we all have different ways. I mean, I think if you talk about courage, for example, some people do it through like physical activities, like they're running a half marathon, and that allows them to grow their courage muscles. And for other people, it's some other practice.
Yeah.
But for me, it's creativity is what lights me up, and so that's my kind of way in. But I think it's always to serve this sort of other larger thing, which is healing and growth and transformation. Does that make sense? I don't even know if what I said makes sense. Does it?
Yes, it does. It does. It's the creativity is your entry point. Creativity for you is your entry point. And that when you are in your creativity, you are better able to kind of access the other pieces of your life, including being kind to your body. Like you're feeling more connected. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yes.
That's it. That's what I meant to say.
That's what I said.
No, that's what I said. All right, really, swear to God, last question. How do you find home in your body? How do you find home in your body, maybe when things are getting a little intense?
Well, I'm a bad meditator. I've never been very good at it.
Thank you for your honesty.
I think mindfulness is an amazing place to explore that and practice that. I do love yoga, and so that's a similar kind of meditative practice. On my bicycle.
Yes.
That is just total pleasure for me.
Yeah.
It's not meditation. It's not all those other things I was describing, but it's a place where I just feel like me, and I'm not self-conscious, and I'm not,
That's
I'm not in my head. I'm just in my joy.
That is, I mean, if home is joy and comfort, and you feel like yourself and joyous on your bike, then that's home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just had this realization the other day that some of my peak experiences in life, or most of them, have been on a bicycle.
Really?
Like the best times of my life on a bicycle.
Well,
yeah, and it's not like I ride that much, but it's such a joyful place.
I need to get a bike.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know why I feel compelled to say this, but it entered my mind a little bit ago. And I also want to say that there's still a lot of stuff that I'm working with. So, like, there's stuff that I feel like I've healed around the way I talk to myself and how I feel about my body and how I see it from the past. But then there's new stuff. Yeah. Now I'm 42 years old. And there's new stuff. I've had 2 children. My body looks different. It feels different. Mm-hmm. And so there's a way I'm having to really hold all of those changes with compassion.
Yes.
Especially knowing they're only going to get, I don't want to say worse.
Don't say worse. Don't say worse.
They're only going to get different.
They're only going to be changing more.
They're going to to be changing into an even better human.
Exactly.
But it's true. I feel like a better human. I feel like a braver, wiser, awesomer version of myself than I was in my 20s.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yes.
But yeah, I just want to acknowledge, so there's ways, like, I mean, I'm doing this funny thing recently, like in the last sort of year, where I never used to expose my legs, even to myself.
Really?
Yeah, and so I started walking around in just like my t-shirt and underwear, like when I get up in the morning.
Yeah.
And like go about my day and make my coffee. And I still feel self-conscious. Like it still feels a little, like I feel really exposed and I feel like, oh God, my thighs. But there's a way that I'm getting more kind of comfortable with that. It's been an experiment. I've been experimenting with that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that's exactly the conversation that I wanted to be having, which is we're always on a spectrum.
Exactly.
We're always continuing to grow and change. And, you know, your legs are your thing. My stomach is mine. Like wearing tight shirts, it's like, oh God, what am I, like,
yeah.
Can wear a tight shirt? And it's like, actually, I can. And I'm going to. But we see the limits. You know, we see the limits that we put on ourselves that actually, after a while, we don't want them anymore.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to be thinking about you in a shirt and undies.
Woo!
Which is lovely.
So on
that note, we're done. No. But yes, thank you for sharing that. And thank you, Andrea, for your time and your wisdom. You hit on so many incredible notes. And one of the things that I think is so great about you is just how real you are. Like, you're so real. And I love that. So thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, and thank you, everyone, for watching. And we'll see you next time.